Welcome to Lesson 1.10's Math Moment. Today we're going to be talking about how to add and subtract with mixed numbers again. So this is a review of previous units with just a little bit more practice and a few trickier questions. So the first example says, the Greens have 3 dogs. Rosie eats 1 7/8 cups of food each day. So that's Rosie. Ziggy eats 2.5 cups of food each day. And Razzle eats 5 3/4 each day. How much do the Greens dogs eat all together? All right, so we have 3 different amounts that we need to add up because the words all together mean to add. So I have 1 7/8 plus 5 3/4 plus 2 1/2. Now, we know that whenever we're adding fractions, the denominators have to be the same. We've looked at a couple of different strategies. The strategy that I'm going to look at here is seeing if I can make my smaller denominators equal my bigger one. Is there something that I can take 2 times to get 8? Is there something I can take 4 times to get 8? And there is. I can take 2 times 4 to equal 8, and I can take 4 times 2 to equal 8. This is called a shortcut because I don't have to do anything to 1 7/8 and I'll be able to add it. Anything I do to the bottom of my fractions, I must do to the top. So if I took this bottom times 2, I must take the top times 2. This denominator I took times 4, so I must take the numerator times 4. I'm now going to rewrite my fractions with the new multiplication step. So 1 7/8 I get to leave alone. 5, I get to now change the 3 times 2, it becomes a 6. 4 times 2 becomes an 8. Then I'm going to add 2. 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. So the nice thing is I've made all my denominators the same with just 2 little steps. So now that all my denominators are the same, they get to stay the same. I'm going to add the tops and then add the whole numbers. So I'm going to use my mental math strategy of knowing that 6 and 4 equal 10, and then just add the 7 to get 17. Then I'm going to add 1 plus 5 to get 6, plus 2 to get 8. So I'm looking at my answer and it's 8 17/8. This should look funny to you because 17 is bigger than 8, and we cannot have a bigger number on top than on the bottom. So I'm going to divide 17 divided by 8 to help me make this fraction proper. 8 can go into 17, 8, 16, 2 times to get 16. When I subtract, I have 1 left over, which becomes my new numerator, and 8 becomes my denominator. So 17/8 is the same as 2 1/8. So now I just have to take this answer and my whole number 8 and put them together to get my final answer. 8 plus 2 is 10, and my fraction piece is 1/8. So all of the Greens dogs all together eat 10 1/8 cups of food. All right, the next problem says the Greens have 3 dogs again. We've got Rosie with 1 7/8. This seems familiar. Ziggy with 2.5. And Razzle with 5 3/4. Now, when you come across a problem like this, you should be doing a happy dance because we already figured out how to make these the same. We've already done a lot of the work. So let's see what this problem wants us to do. It says, how much more does Ziggy eat than Rosie? So I'm just focusing on Ziggy and Rosie, which means I don't have to worry about Razzle in this problem at all. How much more tells me to subtract. So I'm going to subtract 1 7/8 and 2 1/2. I know that 2 1/2 is bigger than 1 7/8, so it's going to go in the front. Now, I have to make my denominators the same, but I can use the shortcut method because I know that there is something times 2 that gives me 8, and that something is 4. Anything I do to the bottom, I must do to the top. So now I'm going to rewrite my fractions. I've got 2. 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. And then I can subtract my 1 and 7/8. My denominators are the same. I worked hard to do that, so they get to stay the same. Then I'm going to subtract my tops. 4 minus 7, I can't do that, so I have to borrow from the 2, change it to a 1. When I borrow 1 whole from the 2, I have to add 1 whole to the 4/8. 1 whole in this case is the same as 8/8. So 8/8 plus 4/8 gives me a new 12/8. Now I can subtract the tops because 12 minus 7 is a problem I can do. 12 minus 7 is 5, and I just take 1 minus 1, which is 0, and I don't even have to write it. I could just leave it as 5/8 as my final answer. So how much more does Ziggy eat than Rosie? Ziggy eats 5/8 cups more. Good luck with the rest of your 1.10 lesson homework. If you have any questions,